Good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome to the latest instalment of our monthly CarpFix Live. Now, the main purpose of the live is to answer you, the members' questions. So get your questions in while I waffle on for a little bit. Scott will sort of compile them, and then once I've finished having a little chat, then I'll answer as many of those questions as I can. But make sure they're carp fishing related, not anything too strange. But yeah, I'm going to start off by sort of talking about what I've been up to, and then move on to what I'm thinking around this sort of time of year. So during the last CarpFix Live, I mentioned that I'd been filming for Mainline over at Grenville's, and I've been back there twice since the last CarpFix Live. The first of those was for a quarter film, and hot off the back of that session with Mainline, it was much the same. Fish in the central body of the lake. What are you doing there, Scott?
I'm just adjusting.
Just adjusting the camera. Yeah, fish were out in the middle body of the lake, and the main thing that I really needed to go in my favour was getting the right swim. And I managed to get straight back in swim number 33, which swim 33 is an end peg, and the way the island sits, and the way that the pylons divide the lake up, and the shape and size of the lake, just means that when you're in that end peg 33 in the autumn, you've got good access to the sort of, or you're closest to the main body of water where the fish hold up and where they feel safe. You know, they like to sit on the back of the island and around that area where you can't really reach them. They're just too far away. And by be able to fish sort of 140 yards out from the end peg, you are the closest person to those fish. And I think they migrate out there from the cabin area as the weather cools off. The cabin area has got like 3 marker poles out in front of it that get fed often, and a lot of the fish obviously come to the bait there because they know they're getting regularly fed. But as the temperature drops, they move out sort of the other side of the wires into that central body, and from that swim, if you're in that peg and you're fishing well out towards the middle, particularly on the back of a southwesterly, then you can do really well. And I was in there for 4 days, wasn't fishing like all night. Basically, we're putting the bait out sort of 1 o'clock in the afternoon via the boat, and then getting the rods out on top. And but like as the evenings were going, it's like 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock as it moved into dark, the fish would just come on the bait, and I was putting 20 kilos of I think on the quarter film I was using straight cell, all of it heavily soaked in smart liquid. And I didn't have as many 40s as I did on the mainline film, but still had 4 40s out of 20 odd fish, load of scaly 30s. Went really, really well. And then I went back after that a week later. So like I've basically fished 3 times in 3 weeks over there. And obviously I wanted to get back in the same swim. Got there, someone was in the swim that I wanted to fish, and I had to wait. You know, I was sort of waiting for them to go in the afternoon, sitting in my van. And while I'm sitting in my van, sort of 50 metres up the bank from swim, I didn't want to be like in his swim, sort of like, just being in the way when he's finishing his session. So I was like sitting in my van out of the way. It's raining on and off as well. I saw him run down his jetty to one of his rods, and I could see that he was playing a fish. This is probably 11 o'clock in the morning, something like that. Probably 11 o'clock in the morning. And I see him get it in the net, and then Paul owns the lake came round, and he said, "Do you want to come and see a big one? Probably a 50." And as soon as they started carrying it out of the water, I was like, that's really big. You know, bearing in mind I've been in that swim catching loads of fish. I've seen lots of 40s. It was noticeably bigger, like considerably bigger. The way it was filling the retention sling, put it on the mat. They was like, "How big do you reckon?" I said, "Well, I don't know how big, but it's definitely 60." And it was 64 pounds. So it was good to see one of the biggest fish in the lake. So I've seen most, well, not all of the big fish in there, but I've seen a few of the big ones now during the few trips that I've done there. And obviously I was keen to get in the swim once the guy left. I think he might have had 2 or 3 that morning. I don't know exactly how many. Definitely had 2. He might have had 3. But yeah, I got in that swim. It was nice to to fish in there without the cameras and be able to sort of fish at full pace, as in like not being constantly asked to stop. Can I film that? Can I film this? Can I film that? So I fished. I think I was only done 2 nights on the 3rd session. I've been putting out a lot of boilie crumb, and as I've been doing really well, I caught 20 odd fish on both of the previous sessions. I didn't think that I was getting a fair shake with regards to the amount of the big fish that I was catching. And I thought that the crumb could be overly attractive and overly stimulating to the smaller fish. So on this 2nd session, I fished a newer spot than where I had been fishing, more to the right, because that's where the fish was jumping when I arrived that day. And I went in with straight boilie, no crumb, 20 kilos, like 10 kilos of 10 mils, 10 kilos of 15 mils, again soaked in smart liquid. And it basically, what I felt, it could be the change of spot, it could be a difference in timing, but the bites didn't come as quickly. I don't think the bait didn't leave that vapor trail, that big cloud in the water that draws the fish in. The bites started later, but they lasted longer. I don't actually remember how many I caught on that 3rd session. It wasn't as many as the other 2 sessions because they were 4-dayers. But I caught some 40s, and I did have a 54-pounder on the last morning just as I was packing up. So those 3 sessions at Grenville's at the end, really, really enjoyed them. But Grenville's is a great water at that time of year because it's quite deep and it fishes well in November. I think October and November are probably 2 of the best months on there. But now we're in December. I've not been over there since that session. I know there's been a few out since, but it is now winter. It's all, when you fish these deep lakes at the back end, they do fish well at that time. But once they dry up, they do tend to be quite difficult unless you get big weather. So now I'm not trying to say here that we should all be fair weather anglers, but what I'm going to say now is what I'm thinking around this sort of time of year with regards to tactics, preparation, venue choice, all of those sort of things. And it is easy to bang your head against a brick wall on the rock hard lakes and accumulate 20 odd nights or more if you're keen and persistent without catching anything in really, really cold conditions. And over the years, I've done that because I've been sort of stubborn and really determined. But as I've got older and maybe a little bit wiser, I tend to be a bit more loose with my fishing through the winter. And by that, what I mean is venue choice. If I'm fishing, if I'm trying to target big fish, for example, I will only do that in the winter if that venue has winter form, as in it's previously done fish in the winter. I will only do that if there's no weed, if it's relatively shallow and in line with really good weather conditions, because now we've got single digits during the day, single digits during the night. The water temperature on a lot of venues will be probably at the moment around 7 degrees, and as we get frosts and whatnot, we might go down as low as sort of like 5-6 degrees. And you can catch carp in any water temperature if you get your location exactly right. But for me, the chances of catching dramatically rise with mild weather. So if you get temperatures over 10 degrees, particularly if the nighttime temperatures are staying consistent, if they're double figures at night, you're absolutely game on. But if it's like 8 degrees in the night, 7-8 degrees at night, 12 in the day, big winds, for me, the big fish venues the fish in those venues can start to stir on those conditions, and I feel motivated to go because I know there's a chance, rather than just going through the motions when it's single digits and freezing cold. For me, I don't really enjoy spending nights on the bank when it's sort of highs of 5 in the day. For me, I'd rather do, if it's going to be that cold, I'd rather just do day sessions and just go somewhere where you've got a really good chance of catching some smaller carp quite easily. For me, I don't want to be jumping out my sleeping bag at 3 o'clock in the morning for a 15-pounder. But sometimes if you haven't been for a while and you want to get your string pulled, you can catch them in any conditions. So, yeah, if you're fishing for big uns, choose your venue with previous form, choose your timing in line with weather conditions, and that's how you're going to have the best possible chance on the big fish venues. If you're just going to get out for days, quick sessions, then you pick your high stocked day ticket type venues where you just turn up, you're going to put some PVA bags out and probably get some traffic, find some fish. The other thing that you can do, particularly through the winter months, is a lot of people, they don't go because they don't think they're ready to go. They don't think they're organised enough. So it's a great time of year to get your rucksack out, take all of your bits, like over the course of the year, you end up, well I do, adding stuff to my rucksack, like another pot of these pop-ups, another pot of these wafters, or I might put a bit of this and a bit of that in my rucksack, extra leads for different types of fishing. And before you know it, your rucksack and all your gear is getting more and more and more out of control. So a great time of year to sort of tidy your tackle box, thin out your rucksack, take out what you do and don't use. I would really get strict with it. Get yourself a little box of that I call stuff that you might need but probably won't, that you can keep in the car, keep in the van, with your sort of non-essential stuff that you don't use every time you go fishing. And if you really strip it back and get your rig board tidied up, get your tackle box, you'll feel more sort of motivated when the weather comes good, and you'll be more, you'll feel ready and prepared, and because you've been thinking about it, you'll just be more in that mode and more likely to go. So if time's of a premium to you and you don't want to sort of be busting your head against a brick wall through the colder months, you can still get your little fix by doing little bits like that and getting organised and whatnot. And lastly, with regards to sort of preparation, if you are going to go on say you're going to go on a campaign on somewhere a bit tricky, you're going to start in the spring, if it's a new venue, I would recommend that you go to these venues not fishing but just with the leading rod and your distance sticks, and spend an hour or two in a couple of swims, and then log all the spots that you find, write them down in your phone, how many wraps to what tree, take pictures on your phone, little marker on like above which tree it is so that you remember come spring. And if you do like a few sessions like that, and on each session you lead and plumb, the lakes will be quiet, there'll be no one around to that you won't be disturbing. A lot of time you leading up in empty swims around other anglers is pretty it's not cool to be bombing the relentlessly marking swims around other anglers. But when the banks are quiet, if you put in this preparation work in the winter months ahead of the spring, that will put you so far ahead, just and on those days, those winter days when you're there leading, you might spot a fish jump out, and then that might be an area where you end up fishing, and it might spur you on to come fishing. But yeah, little leading trips, giving you the fix, you get in your mind these areas where the fish might be hitting, and the homework at that time of year can really, really pay out sort of come spring. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking at the moment. They're my thoughts. So I'm not going to be busting my gut through the colder months. I'll have a little bit of I do a little bit less fishing over Christmas, sort of January time, and then I'm sort of looking for those big weather fronts coming in, picking my sessions on venues that I know are quite exposed to the wind, because venues that are exposed to wind, when you get those mild temperatures and those big winds, they do tend to fish. So yeah, that's probably my little bit of chat over, Scott. So yeah, have we got any questions?
Hope you've taken all that in.
Yeah.
Well, if not, you can rewatch it.
Yeah. But I thought a lot of the time we get into the questions really quickly, and sometimes
it's because we've got lots of questions.
We've got lots of questions, and obviously it is the main purpose of the live. But at the same time, I would sometimes I'm not giving information that I think's important because I'm not getting asked those questions.
Yeah.
So I thought it was just good.
Pecky's I don't know, what can you call it? Pecky's top tips.
Yeah, just what
I know what you mean. You want to concise.
Yeah,
This is what you're thinking.
Yeah, I want to get across how I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Like, because if you think along the same lines, then you can make the most of it, because it's not complicated carp fishing if you know what to do.
Yeah.
And it's just putting it all together at the timing. You know, putting everything together at the right moment in time, and I hope that some of that information helps you guys catch some fish.
Yeah. So if you're maybe struggling for bites on your syndicate and you want to get a bite, go to heavily stocked lakes at this time of year.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, I used to,
rather than sitting there blanking.
Yeah, there's a lake near me called Newlands Hall. I caught my first ever carp there on the Moat Lake as a kid. I took my youngest son float fishing there, and there's the carp lake next to it. Sometimes I'll go there with one of my pals. We'll have a bucket of maggots. We tie big PVO socks of maggots to our leg clips, rub a maggot on the hook with 2 real ones, just lob it out where the fish are, and you just reel it in 5-pounders, one a chuck, one after the other. And sometimes that's all you need, like 3 or 4 hours of that.
Yeah.
You know, not even getting them on the bank and having a photo of them, just catching a few.
That's what carp fishing is.
just catching a few, unhooking them in the net, letting them go.
Yeah.
A few hours out.
There's Blunt's Mere. Have you been Blunt's? Blunt's Mere.
I've been there. I never fished it.
But when I don't have a ticket there anymore. But yeah, Blunt's was like that. Small, heavily stocked, fish to a tree line, trickle 10 millers in, and you'll just fish.
Yeah.
And it's good fun.
Lastly, one thing as well to bear in mind this time, everyone thinks it's like rock hard, la-di-da-di-da, and it can be. But the colder it gets, the more localised the fish tend to be. And if you can find the mother pod, you think these lakes like Linear, where there's like 2,000 carp in some of these lakes, if you find a pod of 2,000 carp and you throw anything in the middle of that pod, you're catching some fish. And the reason you're not catching a lot of time is because you're not exactly where you need to be. So it's worth bearing in mind on these real heavily stocked lakes. You can still have some incredible fishing in snow, in all sorts of weather, if you get your location right. And what you will find is there isn't a bloke waiting behind every swim with a bucket behind it now. There'll be much, much quieter out there. But yeah, I won't be doing loads and loads and loads. I'll be sort of picking my moments, and from now until February. And in February you always get those big storms coming, and I'm in my mind I'm always waiting for those storms. I've got a few venues in mind. I wait for the February storms to come. They always do. And my other top tip around mild weather that's probably worth mentioning is when you see this mild weather coming, it doesn't go 12 degrees. Water comes up that day. Usually these mild spells, they last 3-4 days, something like that. You get a good windy spell of 3 or 4 days of mild temperatures. I try and plan my sessions when I can on the back end of that, and I'm quite happy fishing it a day or two after the mild spell, because I believe the water temperatures come up enough, and that's created the fish, given the fish a reason to have a little stir and look for some bait. So don't jump the gun when you see these mild spells. Look to attack the back end of them rather than the day they arrive.
Yeah, once the benefit of that milder weather has hit the water, and warmed it up a bit. But I guess though, like somewhere like Berners, where it's got exposed, when that warm 14-15 degree wind is going into it, is how quick is that water being warmed up? Are they feeling it?
It depends how much wind's going on. Like somewhere like Berners, I think it really, really affects it because it's up on a hill, it's open,
properly
it's exposed. And I think the undertow, the water's getting mixed, getting really mixed. So yeah, I would 12 if it's 10, I'm interested.
Yeah.
If it's 12, I'm excited.
Yeah.
If it's 15, then that's quite rare. It is quite rare, 15.
That's warm though.
But it can be. You can have those ones I've had. And when you get those 14, 15 degree mild spells, it's on.
Yeah.
Right, and if you're not catching on those venues when it's 14, 15 degrees, it's because you're not in the right spot or you're not got the right stuff on.
Yeah.
So sometimes the weather's against you and it's not nothing that you're doing. But I think that on those real mild ones, Bayswater is somewhere that I've done a lot of fishing at through the winter. And every time, over Christmas, into January, no one's there. The fish feel pretty like unpressured, and if it's blowing 12 degrees and it's good blow on, again, Bayswater's open to the wind. There used to be no weed in the winter, and if you're in the right spot, all it took was a single PVA bag.
Yeah, there's always warm spells around Christmas when everyone's at home. Most people are. Yeah. That bit between Christmas and New Year, I'm sure for the last few years has been really warm.
Yes, it's consistently. Some decent weather comes in around then.
Yeah. So yeah.
Right.
We've got questions. Yeah. Our friend Lennart, who joined us on the Freehills Social. Oh yeah, we will do, if you've just joined us, we will do the live draw for the session to fish Grenville with myself for next year. We'll do that during the live, so just stay tuned for that. But Lennart has asked a question. Good evening, legends. What are your experience with barbless hooks? Why do you prefer a wide gaper X over a wide gape barbless, as the Y gauge is the same? Cheers from Germany.
So why do I prefer wide gape X over the barbless?
Yeah.
Well, I prefer to use barbed hooks when I can. I think you'll probably over the course of time lose less fish. Just especially on weedy waters. When you're fishing somewhere that's really weedy, the fish are going to get stuck in the weed at some point during the fight. I like to slacken off. If I can't move the fish and it gets locked up in the weed, I've had it sort of under tension for a little while, I like to ease off and give the weed sort of a chance to sort of itself slacken off around the fish, give the fish room to kick out. But with barbless hooks, that's risky, real risky for hook pulls. Now, I fish barbless where I have to. When we go to Three Islands Lake, it's barbless. When we go to Gigantica, it's barbless. When you go to like Norton, it's barbless. I don't tend to lose that many. I'm not one of these people that goes to a barbless venue and thinks, oh yeah, I'll just sneak a barb on. It doesn't bother me having to use barbless hooks. It really doesn't. But given the choice, I would use barbed. But going back to the wide gauge thing, the wide gape X and the barbless wide gapes are on the same wide gauge, and it's only the normal wide gapes, the normal barbed wide gapes, that are slightly thinner. So literally, it's a like for like change. One with a barb, one without.
Cool. Our friend Beer Boobs and Techno's back.
Is he?
Yeah. He says, evening gents, so I went to the Winter Carp Show and I got dragged along to hear Ali Hamidi do a talk. I'd rather have been in the bar. Anyway, he stated that using oil is the wrong thing to use in solid bags. I disagree, as I just caught one of the 3 biggest in my lake with solid bags with hemp oil. Thoughts?
Why did Ali say it's not the one? Don't know.
No idea.
To be honest, it's not something that I've ever done. And one of the age-old things that's been said for years is you don't be using anything too oily in winter, because the oil congeals. It's thicker. It doesn't spread through the water as much. Hemp is a brilliant winter bait. It's very, very, very oily. I've caught well on trout pellets in the winter, even though they're very, very, very oily. People say fish meal boilies don't work in the winter because they're too oily. I've caught on fish meal boilies in the winter as well. So if it works, it works. A lot of people have got opinions on stuff. They say you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. My view is if it works, it works. And don't let the opinions of others stop you doing something that works. So like I say, I haven't done much PVA bag fishing with oil myself, but at the same time, if it's working for you, it's working.
I think a solid bag, if you're fishing where the fish are, a solid bag, I think no matter to a degree what's in it, because you're fishing where the fish are, should just work. So like you say, I don't think there's too much.
I can't see what
putting hemp oil or not putting it in. It's not, the fish aren't going to go, oh, there's no hemp oil in there.
I wonder if Ali was. I don't know why he was saying that. He might have been saying that the oil's got into the PVA if it's been left too long, and then it's slowing the PVA melting down. Maybe
might be more to the conversation.
But it's hard for me to. I don't know what Ali was saying in what context. You know.
But your thoughts are like hemp oil halibut pellets, you use them. So.
Yeah. Hemp is one of the best winter baits.
Yeah.
Like if you're talking particles in winter, hemp is one of the best. Hemp or sweet corn are my two favourite winter particles, and hemp in particular is very oily.
Yeah. Paul Linwood, good evening both. Congrats in advance, Darrell, on Carp Angler of the Year. What can we expect? When can we expect some content on the big fully?
I'm going into Corda next week to film some voiceover for the film. Basically, the film was supposed to be edited up because I fished there last year, 2023, and it was supposed to be edited up to that point before I went there this year, with the idea of me putting the cherry on the cake if possible. But the guys editing the film got pulled off onto other stuff, and now obviously I've caught it since. The edit's gone different to how it's originally planned, and I've got to go in and do some voiceover, but I'm not sure when it's going to drop. They keep changing their mind. Last I heard it was going to be out next spring, but I've got no idea.
It's on the way.
It's on the way.
Beer and Boobs. We have got questions by other people, but I'm just going through them as a list. Beer and Boobs has got one more question. How long can you leave cooked peanuts, and what's the best thing to add to them whilst cooking in and or afterwards?
I don't know the answer to that, actually. Tiger nuts, for example, they work in all states from fresh to absolutely rancid. Now, I've only used peanuts a handful of times all through the years. Whenever I have, I've done very, very well on them, but I tend to use them relatively fresh, sort of 24 hours to sort of 72 hours after boiling them. I know that they turn and they go sort of funny smelling very quickly, but I don't know if they work well like that or not. I know Dovey uses peanuts quite a lot, and he thinks that, I'm pretty sure he's happy to use them when they absolutely smell rancid. But for me, I've only used them a few times in my life, and I've only ever used them relatively fresh. With regards to adding stuff to them, I'm one of these sort of people that doesn't do stuff like that, really. I'm not saying you can't add sugar, you can't cook them in fenugreek or anything that I've heard other people do and be successful. Of course you can, but if they work without, I tend not to do anything to them. When I'm looking to buy peanuts and when I fished with them previously, I've always bought the most expensive, not the like human grade ones, but when you go to somewhere like Hafes, which is an animal feed place, they usually have different quality peanuts, and I buy the full fat, greasy ones, real plump, not the cheapest ones that they've got, because I'm not going to use loads of them. I'd rather use the premium ones, and that's always worked really well for me.
Beautiful. J. Cole, when would you use a wafter over a bottom bait and vice versa?
Well, I never ever use bottom baits anymore. Not because I don't think they work. Actually, far from it. It's just with my Combi multi-rig, I really like the idea of the hook bait masking the hook, just gently as it sets out on the bottom, hook bait sort of hovering over the hook laying flat on the bottom. I think that's like the perfect way for that rig to sit. I like the idea the hook bait's a little bit lighter so that when the fish sucks it in, it flies into its mouth really quickly. But that said, at the same time, on the underwater films, it's very evident that when the fish are on the spot feeding, if they see that hook bait wobbling, and wafters do tend to wobble, they spook off of it. Like, that is one of the things that's really noticeable on the underwater filming that we don't see when we're sat in our bivvies behind the rods, is that although we're catching on these wafters, there are times when the fish are spooking off of them. So, I would, at the moment, I'm thinking about my wafters. I want them lighter than the bottom bait, but I don't want them wobbling all over the show. And I might, next year, start fishing bottom baits that are drilled out with just a little bit of cork in, just so that they always sit the right way up. So the hook always ends up on the bottom with the boilie on top, rather than sometimes with a bottom bait. I think there's a possibility of the boilie landing on the bottom and the hook landing on top of that. So, Yeah, but yeah, if you're feeding a lot of boilie, they're eating a lot of boilie. I don't think you can beat having exactly the same thing on the hook. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
I think in Rob Burgess's film on CarpFix, he was potentially fishing bottom baits. I think he's done it a few times in our films.
Right.
He really likes fishing just plain bottom baits.
Yeah, well, no one does it anymore, do they?
No. He was all over it, and I guess especially when you're fishing from a boat, it's like you can be sure that it's
lovely.
Yeah.
You're putting it on.
And fishing,
nice
like you say, he was fishing over a load of boilies, so.
Yeah, I think loads of people are just obsessed with Ronnie rigs and wafters.
That's what
and
people
pop-ups.
see. People see it on videos.
Yeah, and obviously not everyone, but like 90% of people these days have got a bright one on the hook, either a pop-up or a wafter, a bright one. And I do think, especially in clear water, like just more natural coloured baits, you know, on the bottom, will score.
Yeah, definitely. I concur. Rick Patton. Hi gents, love the videos, learnt so much from them. What is your favourite natural bait, or do you use a mixture, and how do you store them when fishing?
Natural bait. Now, when he says natural, does he mean live bait? I reckon.
I think so. I don't. Yeah.
I love all natural bait. Like I probably fish more with maggots than any of the others, but I love casters. And I've only used worm like a couple of times really, but worm is really good. Obviously, there's been loads of press about it. Casters are really good, and maggots are really good. Sometimes I like to mix them up. Sometimes I like to fish them on their own. I think like when it's really cold, like now, like really, really, really cold. I think a bag of them. A small bag. Everyone thinks you want a massive bag. I think like an egg-sized bag. That's the only way. Like an egg-sized bag of maggots or casters. More maggots when it's really cold. I feel. I just think they're lethal. Like not a big spombed area, but just a little egg-sized bag, exactly where it needs to be. It's just, I don't know. It opens up on the bottom to like a saucer-sized area, or at the top of a cup, like that sort of. Yeah, like a top of a big mug. And it's just, I think that's just enough for a carp to see. Not overwhelming as in looks like a trap.
It makes them, they're like, ooh, what's that?
Yeah. And I think people think, I think that one of the most attractive things about a maggot is the sweat. Like, I don't know this because I'm not a carp, but I think the sweat of a maggot is obviously probably very water soluble. And I think that's very detectable because they give off ammonia, don't they? They really smell ammonia. Yeah. And carp pick up on pH changes in the water. So I think maggots are live. They taste good. They mimic natural food. I think the carp can really smell them in the water. And I think obviously when they, like if you've got a bag full and it just opens up on the bottom, it becomes highly visual. So they're ticking loads of boxes with regards to sort of what's good in the winter. So yeah, I would say maggots are my favourite in freezing temperatures, fished in that way. But when you're doing a spombed area, I think like a mix, like a 2 kilo of chopped worms to 2 pints of caster with maybe like a handful of white maggots just for a little bit of ping, like just like what's that? I think that's a naughty mix. That it costs you a fortune as well. 2 kilos of worms is like 40 quid, and then 2 pints of casters like probably best part of a tenner, and then you look like
a pint of casters is 5 quid.
Yeah, it's toppy, but they like them.
Well, like you say though, we were out recently and. You put a small amount of maggots out, so that you only need a very small to still look like it's
they look
enough.
A lot. Yeah.
So you don't need to go overboard. Like a pint of maggots, if you're fishing like we were, will go quite a long way.
Yeah. If you're fishing mesh bags, they'll go on for ages, won't they? You won't need
just little balls of them.
Little balls of them.
Yeah. Draw is tonight, Kyle. Rob Knight. Can Darrell talk about his time on Colne? I've never really heard him talk about it before.
Yeah, I can briefly touch on it. So it was, I I think it was after I fished at Essex Manor, which was around 2010, so it'd probably be around 2011. I'd always wanted to have a go on there, but the thing that I did wrong was I asked people about it, and there was, you hear the bad stories about blah blah blah, fishing there, you shouldn't fish there, blah blah blah. But a lot of what had been written in the past is it is a triple SI, so a triple SI you're not supposed to fish there, but it's not getting bailiffed, or it wasn't getting bailiffed back then, and because it wasn't getting bailiffed, there were people fishing it, and there weren't loads of carp in there. I couldn't even tell you how many were in there. I didn't really know, but I only fished a handful of nights on there ever, and I caught, when I was there a few times, I caught 2 or 3 the small commons out of there. But I'll tell you a very brief story. Basically, Johnny Mack had told me about a shallow area out in the middle in front of a swim called the Rat Hole, and he remembers him saying that when it blows southeasterly in the spring, that's a good area to be. So when I saw it blowing southeasterly one day on the weather forecast, went down there with all my stripped back gear, like real minimal, and spread some naked chods out, sort of 60, they're probably like 70 to 80 yards, 60 to 80 yards out, something like that. Just casting out into this in the middle, fishing for drops with these naked chod rigs, and peppered a few hundred boilies or 100 boilies or so for the throwing stick sell. And I'd done the night, woke up in the morning, and as it was like half light, I started packing up all my stuff so it was all out of sight, and I just had my rods fishing. And as it got light, I thought I saw one show just beyond one of the rigs, and I was watching from a different position to where my rods were stashed up. And then the first plane came out of Heathrow and came over the top of the lake, and as it came over the top of the lake, it was loud. I thought I heard a buzzer going, but I wasn't sure because of the sound of the plane. Anyway, I walked round the bush to where my rods were stashed, and my bobbin was into my alarm. I picked it up, reeled it in. It was a small common, I can't even remember how big it was. It might have been 22 pound. Anyway, I've got it in the net. I've taken the rod to the bivvy to start re-rigging it, so I want to get it straight back out there real fast. And while I'm in there re-rigging it, I only had 2 rods out. The other rod went and picked into that. It took a load of line on the take. I got it coming my way, came through a couple of weed beds, got stuck a couple of times, came out the weed, and then just hook pulled it at like 20 when it was out of the weed, nearly in 20 yards out. And that black mirror, more than 50% of its captures, or at least 50% of its captures, were from that rat hole swim. And there'd been quite a few fish out that spring already, and it was one of the ones that hadn't been out. So, yeah, I can't say that I lost the black mirror because it's like 20 to 1 if there's 20 carp in there. But I was in the right swim at the right time of year, and I lost a good fish. And I, to this day, it's like a bit of a sickener. You know what? Yeah. Could have been £30 common. You know, there was £30-40 commons in there at the time. So, my biggest regret with Colne is that I didn't. You know, I had the time, and I could have put more into it when I should have put more into it. And I was just, I never committed at the right time, really, and then it died shortly after.
Yeah. Cool. Hope there's a nice little reflection for you. Yeah. Where are we? Why have I lost where we are? Here we go. Alex, Jacobs Films. Oh, you enjoyed Jacobs Walthamstow film? We haven't got any plans to do anything with him because he's very busy with Nash, but we haven't ruled anything out. So yeah, there is potential, and yeah, we loved the films that Jacob did. They were good. A different vibe for our channel. So yeah, we might if time permits, and he'll definitely do some more for us with no doubt. Kyle Wallace, will you be at the Essex Carp Show in February? Are you going there?
I've not been asked, but that doesn't quite often forget.
Come on, the fishing outlet if you want.
Yeah, come and stand. Roll up.
How much you charging?
Come and get your captors.
Yeah, could sell your book.
Could sell my book. Yeah. I've not been asked by Corda, but that doesn't mean.
No, I'm sure you will.
Yeah, possibly.
I'm sure you will. But yeah, potentially. Sam Lemon, hi gents. Do you think the wind has an impact on small lakes as much as it does on big lakes? What are your thoughts?
No, not so much. I think how sheltered they are is just as important. I think it's just, if the wind hits them, it will have an effect, whether it's cold, whether it's warm, whether it's sunny, sun traps. I think it always has an effect. But the ones that are the most exposed to the weather are the ones that most react well to the mild spells in winter.
Cool. Daniel Zorman, can we see some future films at the Suffolk Water Park?
We mentioned that last time, didn't we?
I actually, it's sensible for us to go there because it's very close, and I believe it is quite clear. I've been there before, and I remember it being really clear.
Right, okay.
So it could go. I know it gets weedy.
I've never fished it. I've been there before for like a tracker photo shoot, wearing like clothes, just to get dressed up like a mannequin, like wear this new Tundra suit, and take some photos of it.
Throw a bucket over you.
Yeah, but I don't think I've ever fished there. But it's an interesting lake. Yeah. We should go there.
I don't know if you can use bait. I've got a vague memory people who use bait boats or something on
right,
there.
Okay.
But yes is the answer.
Yeah.
Peter Marriott. Hi Darrell, I've been trying out your Combi rig. A few questions. Do you think the hook folding back against the boom matters? Have you tried fishing it popped up with 2 bend of the hook on the deck? With 2 bend on? That's what it's all about.
Well, I've never found the did he say the hook bending back up
over the boom? Yeah.
No, I've never found that.
No, I haven't either.
I've never seen rig correct. What
you say in your video.
Yeah, it's the I think that's the key thing is the boom wants to be 5 inches and the braided section wants to be 3.5 centimeters.
Yeah.
So maybe that's where he's going wrong. Maybe he's gone 3.5 inches. Right, so he's got a real long braided bit. But
maybe.
Yeah, it shouldn't be folding back on itself.
I've fished the supple bit like 4 centimeters is like the longest I normally pull it out to.
Yeah,
that's where I've and I've never had a problem.
Never had it folding back. No.
Ben Tester, evening guys. Got you on in the background whilst doing a gearbox on my wife's car. What's the best Bankside meal you have ever cooked? Need some inspiration instead of burger and pasta. I did one that was good one time, didn't I? Was it bangers and mash?
When we used to get that stuff from Think Food, it was
that.
Yeah,
bangers and mash is great. We get mash from the fruit, like from the veggie bit in this supermarket, sausages, and then I was getting gravy. Like he does it gravy, which you can get in pouches, and then some like tender stem broccoli or something. That was a good meal.
I appreciate a good meal when someone else is cooking it.
Yeah.
But like, the thing is, it's like I don't like the multiple pan situation with extravagant cooking. I don't want to be carrying loads of flashy. I love it when it's someone plated up and handed to me. But a lot of time I eat stuff that's convenient and not just convenient. It's less mess, stuff that doesn't create lots of mess, lots of pans, lots of washing up.
This isn't a plug because I don't even sell them in my shop, but the Ridge Monkey do a small, deep pan. It's like about this big. It's tiny, size of a kettle.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I cook steak, sweet potato fries.
What steak in that?
Yeah. If you just get a steak that size, it fits in the bottom bit. So you've got obviously the pan's in 2 parts. But if you can cook a whole meal with that pan. Yeah. So I do the sweet potato fries first. Yeah. And I put them in on the pan bit, and then I just I basically put them into. You can cook them 2 ways. You can either put them in the pan bit, or you can put them in the big bit, and you keep as long as it's got in like an oven effect. They'll cook. Yeah. And then I keep them warm, and then I do the broccoli bit, and then I cook the steak last, and you got a full meal.
Yeah. Steak's a great option on the bank, but it gets a bit spicy if you want to eat it for lunch, dinner 3 nights a week.
Well, you just like cooking minced.
No, I don't like it. I'm minced out.
Yeah. Right, let's have a look. Hazeldine, do you use a heli setup on a tapered main line? If so, do you use a separate leader or just straight on the tapered section, naked style?
Straight on the tapered section.
That was easy.
Yeah. And I do sometimes, yeah.
Daniel Metcalf. That's fine. Lewis Pitts. Hi guys, fishing a winter ticket, 20 plus acres, done 5 sessions, had a couple but haven't seen a single show. My eyes peeled to the lake. Any tips? Lake's full of bream and same depth throughout. So winter ticket, 20 plus acres, done 5 sessions, caught some bream.
Where have you caught? What, caught some bream? No carp. Caught some.
Oh no, lake's full of bream. Sorry,
yeah.
Lake's full of bream.
Well,
same depth.
Just keep on going. You know, that's the. As I said, that this time of year, I would fish around the better weather. I'd really pick my times, and when the weather's crap, I would use that time for plumbing and like just going over the lake for a couple of hours, a little bit of plumbing, just keeping in contact, you know, keeping that sort of vibe. But don't, if you just go, say you have got 2 nights a week to go fishing, if you go there every week for 2 nights and you go through all of the horrible weather, by the time the spring comes, you'll be fished out. You know, the motivation will get, or the your will get drained away by the horrible weather. So yeah, don't flog a dead horse, as in pick the weather well, stay in contact, but don't overdo it. That's my advice. Just if you've caught already, you're doing something right. And location's always king, you know, always the most important thing. And when you know where they are, go hard. And when you don't know where they are, just be a little bit more sort of reserved and just keep the contact with the lake and wait for your next sighting and then go hard again, you know.
Cool. Let me go down here. Clay, evening both. Happy Christmas. Darrell, yeah. Next live we do is in 2025. Darrell, knowing what you know now from past ventures, what would your advice be to someone attempting Orient for the first time? The do's and don'ts.
If you want to fish it in the spring, you need a boat. You need to be able to fish from a boat. Like you can't fish Orient from the bank May, June and July. Not well. You could poke your cutter rods out of a few shitty swims and dream about catching something, but chances are slim to none. So yeah, I wouldn't even consider going there May, June, July without a boat. If you're going to go in the autumn, September, October time, then you're going to need time. You know, I wouldn't, especially going for the first time. You know, you need 10 nights minimum. You know, 2 weeks would be better. Even longer would be much better. You're going to have trouble with the tench and catfish. You've got to be prepared for that. You've got to have to be prepared to fish at long range. It says in the rules that you shouldn't fish more than 150 yards out, but if you turned up there with less than 500 metres of braid on your reel, you're almost guaranteed to never catch anything. So yeah, you're going to need to, I would recommend that you have the capacity to fish at 500 minimum. And yeah, don't go with too high hopes, because you know at least 90% of people who visit the lake blank. You know, it is hard, it is difficult, but you know, when it happens, it's special. So yeah, go get them.
Cool. Zigman, what would be your preferred depth to fish in December if you fish 0 to 20 metre deep lake?
With zigs?
No. If you're fishing in December and the lake's 0 to 20 metres in depth, where would you fish?
20 metres is really deep.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's like I've not fished many lakes like that.
It's really deep.
20 metres is just like, if it's roughly 3 metres to a foot. That's like.
I'm guessing he might be European because
that's like 60 foot. Fish will be feeding deep, or will go deep at this point in the year. You know, I always think on the really deep lakes, you're good up until Christmas, sometimes into January, to be fishing on the bottom in the deep water. But sometimes they'll come shallow, after Christmas. You know, once you're into February, it's almost a given that the water's going to be warming from the surface, and you'll be looking to find them in shallower parts of the lake. So I wouldn't like to say the exact depth. It's generally not the very, very deepest points. You know, the only place that I've got of any experience of like that is Bundy's, and although it went down to 55 feet, maybe even 60 feet in places, I never caught them any deeper than 40 foot in the limited time that I fished there. So I don't know what that is in metres. Probably around 14, something like that, 14 metres ish. I find sometimes the real deepest parts of the lake aren't always the best, but yeah, I'll be happy fishing in 15 metres on a 20 metre deep lake, 12 metres deep on a 20 metre deep lake at sort of December time, and then looking to come shallower as you come into February sort of time. And yeah, it's really hard for me to give good, because I haven't got a lot of experience of it. You know, for all the experience that I do have, you know, I haven't got that much experience fishing really deep lakes. You know? Somewhere like Bled, you know, that is. Yeah. If you know anyone, like if you spoke to Gasper, he's like the Bled legend, that is a deep lake. There's lots of really deep water out there, and it does have form for doing fish in the winter. So I'd be interested to know what sort of depth that they come out of there through the winter months, because that is that sort of lake, you know, 20 metres deep, I think, in places. Yeah.
Cool. Beer, booze and techno. Just thinking I quite like a Pecker's Techers on cast, setting up the rod, post cast, slacking the line, etc. I guess we could do something like that in situ. We've probably done something like that.
Yeah, it's like a lot of the time when I watch someone mending the line after casting, you can tell a lot about an angler's experience by how they're doing that, and it's something that no one ever talks about. But if you're fishing, let's say, on a windy day, and you cast out, and you've got a big bow in your line, you've got to get that below the surface, and not only below the surface, but straight to your lead, or as straight to your lead as you can possibly get it before you put the rod down. And there's a fine line between having enough tension on the line to mend it, but not too much tension, so you dislodge the lead from its position and drag it along the bottom. So yeah, there's a little just, it's not, I wouldn't say it's skill, but a little bit of knowledge to that. So yeah, my advice is just like, get it below the surface without moving the lead, just feeling the lead. You should feel it pull if you'd moved it too hard. Take your time. That's one of the biggest things, is take your time to get it below the surface. Take your time to bring it straight to the spot, and then like be very careful as you place your rod in the rest and tighten up to it. That's what I'm thinking when I'm doing it. And with regard to tension through the line, if you're fishing a big open lake at distance, chances are you're going to have undertow, and if there is undertow, there's no point in trying to fish slack, because your line will just get tighter and tighter as you feed it out. So if it's fishing at distance, tend to fish tight, and the shorter I fish, the slacker I tend to fish. So that's, as a general rule.
Cool. Mark Castle, when we're going to show you hook sharpening, we should probably try and film that this month, I reckon.
Yeah, we had a little failed underwater attempt this week, but we've got the footage and we can use it when we finally get a good session.
Get the end of the story.
Get the end of the story, but at the moment we've got fish swimming past the camera, not eating anything, which isn't. We need more than that. So because it's really cold, I think it's a good time to knock out a big carp story and a technical piece, rather than flog out some small carp just for the sake of it.
Well, yeah, if people are going to gain more from...
I'm as long as we can... obviously this is your area of expertise, as long as the camera can see what I'm talking about, because I know what I'm talking about from looking at it through the eyeglass, right? But in my mind, if you can't show that, then it's pointless.
Yeah. Well, of course, pun intended. With a macro lens, you can show
that's what. Yeah, what I need to do, rewatch the one that we done on the planing, see those shots, so in my head I'll know how to say what. Yeah. But we will do it.
Yeah. No signs, Tom. No signs of feeding on my lake for the last couple of weeks. Would you switch to zigs?
Generally, for me, I think of zigs as a New Year thing. I've never done well on zigs in the autumn, and I've tended to do best on them from February. I have caught at the end of January on zigs. But yeah, I tend to try and catch them on the bottom until the new year, and then I try zigs.
Cool. Bear with. Just having a look on Gaz the Jailer.
He's been before, yeah.
Been fishing on my syndicate at the pump house. Blanked everyone so far. The fish don't really bosh or show. It's a new lake for me. Any advice on finding the fish during the winter? I know they hang out in that right-hand side.
Is that the one that Luke Valerie did for us?
Yeah, and Rob's done a session on there.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the fish, or the deeper part of the lake, as you look at it. Have you been there?
No.
Yeah, the deeper part of the lake's kind of, from what I understand, there might be a topography map somewhere. I think most of the venues have got one, haven't they?
Yeah.
I think Turner did them. I know a lot of the fish hang around in that deeper section, like immediately on your right, that corner.
Yeah.
The other section's like a long section which reed lined, and in front of the reeds, I think there's like a deeper gully from what I've seen from the drone and things.
Yeah.
The rest of it's pretty like just flat. So I reckon your best bet is probably in that first deeper area.
Is that where the sunken?
Pump, yeah.
Sounds like a good feature.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds like the natural holding ground. You know, like carp love structure in the winter, because obviously as they get colder, they're cold-blooded, so they can't swim as fast. They're not as reactive, and they obviously are. They want to feel safe. That's one thing that a wild animal wants to feel. And if its senses and its ability to move quickly are reduced, then I feel that carp will feel happiest. And I think that's why they ball up in the winter. It's like safety in numbers. Do you know?
Yeah.
It's like safety around structure, cover. And I always think on the smaller lakes where there's loads of fish, if you've got a big reed bed or a big lily bed or a massive overhanging tree that goes in the lake or a underwater pump house, you know, something for them to hide round. I think that's always a great starting point.
And another place, obviously, is like you just said, is that reed bed. Like, I fly the drones around a lot when I'm, at lakes, and I see on certain lakes you don't see anything because of the clarity, but there's North Bank, another embryo lake, which is the one that's got the island in the middle. Have you been there?
No.
There's parts of it that are reed lined. And I took the drone up there, and this was in probably January, freezing cold, and there was probably half a dozen fish literally in about this much water in the reeds.
This time of year, was it later in the late?
I think it might be January.
So I always think
literally in.
I always think before Christmas they're going deep, and I always think that they're looking for the deeper parts of the lake and deep water. I always think that once the water's freezing cold. It's freezing cold, and it can only get better in the shallow water quickest, So I think a lot of the time, if it's freezing cold and sunny, even when it's icy, they're shallow.
Yeah, they were on the sunny side of the bank, so they would have had the sun all day of what was there. But yeah, maybe on a lake like Pump House, really have a look in those reed lines at some point, and there might just be some around there. But yeah, that structure area is definitely an area I would just concentrate on.
It's natural, but everyone wants to fish.
That's
as well,
the problem. Is one
angler
swim.
Magnet. Angler magnet.
Yeah, but I think it's a quieter lake, so you should be. If you pick your times right, depending if you've got a midweek ticket, you've got a very good chance. Right, we've got. Oh, so Ali was saying that the oil wasn't dispersing into the water as it wasn't soluble. That's what he was saying.
Yeah, I've heard people say that oil is not water soluble, and because it's not water soluble, carp can't detect it. Now, I don't know whether that's true or not, but what I do know is a lot of the best baits there's ever been are high in oil, high in fat. Carp, the fat and oil is a taste thing. I think I think it's a taste thing. And although the oil doesn't dissolve in the water, I think it draws stuff through the water that does dissolve. So if you've got other attractors in that bait, say you've got a PVA bag, and the oil disperses out of that bag, it's carrying micro fragments of your bait through the water column that the fish could detect. So whether they can detect oil or not, I don't know. I'm not a fish scientist, but I do know that a lot of good carp baits are high oil, and there's definitely something in that.
Yeah. Right, we'll do the last few questions and we'll do the old draw.
Yeah.
Aaron Thundo. Good evening, chaps. The lake I'm fishing is very silty, and the fish sit in a corner 120 yards. The lead plugs in every time. Would pull back, so it unplugs. Would you pull back? I don't know. He hasn't said that yet. Would you pull or move the bead back 2 to 3 foot?
Right, I would move the bead back. I would never pull back. I would use that plugging as an extra bolt effect. You know, you've got the equivalent of a 10-ounce lead or more, where that lead's rammed into the bottom, which is a good thing. You're going to use that to hook the carp. But I would then fish my bead up the line a little bit, whether it's 6 inches or a foot, depending on how far you think it's plugging in, and aim to fish on top of the debris, or the silt. Sorry. I wouldn't pull it out, because you got a chance of the hook point catching on something, and like picking up a leaf, picking up anything. So I never pull back. Never pull back. Never pull out.
Steve Middleton, Pecky's Kaizen Greens. We did that ages ago. I think I did a draw on Facebook from memory.
What's that?
The greens that you had. Was it greens?
I haven't given them away yet.
No. We had a set of rods ages ago. Oh, you mean the new?
Yeah, they might be talking about that.
Yeah. Oh, you got another set for Corda.
Yeah.
That's separate. Yeah. When is that? Has that been done?
I was going to do it on the Corda Christmas podcast, but I got axed off of that at the last minute.
Okay.
So
you're just going to do it on Facebook, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll just do it at some point.
Okay, so not yet. Yeah. Let's have a look down here. Staying on the Corda topic, Tom Coffey. Are Corda going to bring out a 10-foot Kaizen Green spod rod? Are you aware of that?
I probably think they will. I don't know, but I think there's a chance.
Yeah. Preferred bottom bait, wafter, and pop-up rigs. What are your preferred rigs for those scenarios?
Well, I don't use many different rigs. Combi multi-rig is my go-to wafter rig, one clean bottom.
Yeah.
The stiff hinge rig, fished on the helicopter system, is my go-to pop-up rig. Sometimes I fish a naked shod. And they're the only rigs I've used, really, other than the Zig.
Cool. David Lloyd, how do you keep? Yeah, I've got something up my nose. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's maggots from earlier. David Lloyd, how do you keep your casters from the day you buy them to the day you use them? Also, what would you do with casters you've left over from your session?
They've got to be fresh. I tend to only open what I'm going to use, so I don't say you get like 3 or 4 pints. I don't get them all out of the bag and put them into a bucket. I'd keep them in. I've got this Corda little cool bag. I keep them in there, wrapped up in hand towel. So they're wrapped in a hand towel with freezer packs at the bottom. So that's one way of keeping them. But you don't want them touching ice, because that will kill them or freezer burn them. I wouldn't really want to be ideally keeping them more than 3 or 4 days. I like fresh caster that's been made specially. Like when I'm using a lot of caster, I order it from a top match tackle shop. I don't go into the tackle shops and just buy the stuff that's in the fridge, because if you pull them out, they've all got marks on them, and you can catch on them. I know loads of people do, but if I'm using caster and I want it to be like the creme de la creme, I order it in from a top match shop, and I tell them if I'm doing a longer session, I'll say I'll have 3 pints this day, and I'll come back 3 days later and I'll have another 3 pints. So it's always freshly turned and ready to go.
Yeah, we buy in ours in the shop, and we sell those, but we purposely get more whites in and we turn our own.
Yeah.
So like every 2 weeks, we get maggots purposely in that we just leave.
Caster maggots.
Yeah, and we just turn them ourselves.
Yeah.
And then we put them in bags and stuff.
Yeah.
And they look so much nicer.
Yeah, they're the real deal, aren't they?
Yeah.
When they're
They're a pain to like sort out.
Yes, yeah, but they are worth it.
Good, yeah. Let's do what we got on here. Question to you both: have you either of you spent much time on any lakes up north, or is there any lakes up north you would like to spend some time on? I mean, I'm from Yorkshire, so I spent quite a bit of time fishing up there. But mainly on little syndicate lakes, not really public ones.
No, I don't really know anything about any northern waters. Like I'm not.
There's loads up there, but not.
Yeah, I'm not someone who keeps tabs on what's going on where. You know, I'm a bit of an introvert. I'm not tapped into all the grapevine of what's coming on where. But it's very. I find it very rare to be driving north to go carp fishing. Like Cambridge area is. Cambridge, Peterborough, I've done a little bit of fishing in that area, but that's not north. That's just a little bit north for me. Yeah. And I rarely ever drive any further than Peterborough, as in that far north for carp fishing. Yeah.
So not too much, but yeah. Joey Thomas, evening fellas, off to Raisby North Lake in the morning, big winds and low pressure on the way.
Yeah, buddy.
Kai Wallace at Suffolk Water Park now, 8 bream, bivvy flooded last night in the rain and had Delkin break on me in the rain. Can you tell us a story when it all went wrong for you boys? You got a quick story when it all went wrong?
When it's all gone wrong in the winter.
Or just in general?
All gone wrong. I've been... I remember we were filming for Corda one time on the lake called Ladywell, and we were filming a pop-up masterclass, and this massive storm came in, and I was set up at the base of this rotten oak tree. It's a giant oak tree. It was rotten, and it was creaking like a good one. And I just I don't know, about 10 o'clock at night, I just thought, I'm just not having this. It's just too risky. So I put my Delkims onto the minus setting, onto 0. And I folded my bed chair up and went and put it up in the back of my van. So I was in a metal van, probably 80 metres away from my rods, locked inside my van with the Delkim on the lowest receiver, and the whole van was swaying around all night. And I woke up in the morning, because it's so dark in the van when you're in there with the door shut. I woke up to a single bleep, and I remember thinking, on that setting, a single beep is taking line. Like that's it will not bleep unless that clutch is spinning. I pulled the door open, it was broad daylight. I was like, whoa. Run out there was a branch all tangled in my line and a £30 common on the end.
Really?
Yeah.
Jesus. Yeah. Darrell, have you ever fished Coat Water in Swindon? Used to have a fish called the Resident.
I know of it. I've never fished it. It was, when I first started fishing for 40s and that in my early 20s, that was one of the ones that I was interested in finding a bit of info about and like maybe going there. But yeah, I've never been there.
Cool. Alex, I don't see you fishing with inline leads very often. Is there a reason you don't use them?
When you're fishing stiff booms, I worry about them being propped up if they don't land well on the bottom for presentation. If you're fishing the margins, you're just plopping it down there. I don't think you can beat an inline. I really think like they're so much more minimal than a leg clip system. They're much more high impact when the fish tensions the hook link. They've got a lot of pros, but I just don't use them. I should, I don't. I tend to just fish with what I've got on my rod rather than just change the whole thing for the best thing that you could. But if I was regularly fishing in the edges and fishing with solid bags now, I would definitely use inlines more because they're minimal and really good.
Cool. Tony Collins, evening folks. Would you use washed out baits on longer sessions in the hope that the carp may accept them as a safe food?
Yeah. I use washed out baits whenever I go fishing most of the time. I just think that a bait that's been soaked in water for 24 hours is a better bait. I just think they're better like that. I don't think it's people think when you say wash out bait that you've washed all the flavour out of them, when you wash out a bait in a bucket, the flavour comes out into the condensed amount of water that you've got in there, but that becomes saturated in the attractors, that's then saturating the bait. So in a lake situation, the attractors will drift off in the lake. Whereas in a bucket, confined space like that, the baits are getting saturated in their own attractors. I think they look like they've been in the water longer. They're more attractive because there's more juice coming out of them, and they're easier eating because they're softer. So I think they're the main key things.
Cool. Right, 2 more, and then we'll do the draw. Okay. Aaron Heath, is there any plans for more CarpFix socials? Would love to be a part of one. I've been asked, there's quite a few questions on here about that, so maybe we should just do a UK one.
We probably should. We should just maybe like book a lake, and then put it out there.
I'll do some digging.
It's hard to get the availability, like somewhere like B1, B2 or Oxley's. I see Adam Penning had one on Oxley's recently. Yeah. You've got enough room for a lot of guys, a lot of people, and that makes it. Yeah. Like when we go to France on these commercial ones, it's only room for like 10 people, which isn't enough. You can get
like 30 people.
If you get like 30 people around one of those lakes, you get a marquee up, have a barbecue, and maybe do a little presentation.
You can do a barbecue.
Huh?
You can do a barbecue.
You can do the presentation.
I mean, that's good. Yeah. We'll look into it because I keep getting asked on here. Right, last question. How do you decide how big your area of baiting will be in diameter? Do you try to make it as narrow as possible?
Depends on the situation. At Grenville, I'm fishing probably 4 rod length line. A 4 rod length line that's probably a rod length deep. So I'm creating like a 12-foot depth for 3 or 4 rod lengths. But when I'm fishing on small clear spots, I tend to fish as accurately as I possibly can, and especially I think to get as many fish as possible in the shortest time frame possible, it works best when it's tight baiting. Competitive feeding is a big hit tactic, but spreading boilies over a larger area over a larger time frame is a big fish tactic. So it's all variables that I can't give you a straight answer on that.
Cool. Right, I want to try. Oh, here we go. It's on.
It's on.
How did I do that? Right, so let me make this a little bit bigger on the bottom bit here. This is a little bit of a temporary fix, but there is a list of names here. If I scroll up and down, you should be able to see this if you're watching. So if I scroll up and down, you can see people's names. So they're the list of our CarpFix members. This one here that's got like the number is basically a person who joined via one of the apps. They didn't create a full account, but I can still find their details if I need to. So
this is to win the session with Scott.
Yeah, with me. Yeah, and then we'll do another one for next month. This month. Right, so I'll literally just going to press pick a random name. A name is going to come on the screen just below in the white box, and then whoever that is going to come on a session to Grenville. Ready?
Yep.
Bing.
Darrell Peck.
Hold on. I pressed the wrong button. I pressed random names. This is how tired I am. I'm so tired. Right, here we go. Ryan Hope. I'm pretty sure Ryan Hope's one of our like original members
from the beginning.
Should we check? Ryan Hope 96. I'm sure Ryan's been with us for ages.
Yeah. We've only got 10 members. That's how you know. Yeah.
I'm just going to turn this. So Ryan Hope. I'm just going to take quick. Get rid of that, and then go on here. I just want to see quickly. Right. I'm sure he's been on there for a while. Ryan Hope. Yeah, he's been with us since 2020.
Ryan Hope, well done. You're coming to Grenville with Scotty.
Yeah, he's been with us.
Big bait drops.
Active since October. Oh no, that was he's been with us. November 2020. So like.
Yeah, a few years.
Yeah. Well done, Ryan.
Well done.
I'll send you an email. I'm just going to take a quick picture of this because I'll probably lose it. I'll send you an email at the start of next week if you haven't seen this. But Ryan, hope you want a session with me on Grenville. And we might even film it if you catch fish.
Yes.
But we'll work out a time for next year sometime. That's it. So we'll see everyone in 2025.
All right then, guys. Well, happy Christmas. Hope you have a good one. And see you in the new year.
Yeah. Cheers.